I am definitely heading towards silence, but I'm not quite there, so thanks for the opportunity to speak. I was so excited, I have to apologise for my awful abstract. I was so excited by the idea behind the festival that I just wrote 4 hours worth of things that I'd like to speak about, so only a very tiny piece is here. It actually relates exactly to the discussion at the end of the last one about this notion of the no space. So we'll get to that. I'm going to duet with the screen, so that's why I'm sitting down. The purple bits are the bits about the call that excited me. And these little bits excited me too, very much. So here we have it, Object-Oriented-Ontology. I don't really want to speak too much about it because I know there are people here who think it's more of that, and there are others who think it's more, oh no. As I say, I don't want to engage with it too much, but it is a novel and contested area. Engagement with it would take too long. What I find attractive is the challenge it presents to the centrality of consciousness. It posits us as actors within a matrix of independently existing objects. Our experience a series of negotiations, something like a dance. Maybe it's a Copernican revisualization, removing perception and imagination from the center, and smashing iconoclastically the imputed status of thought and imagination at the godlike apex of a philosophical equivalent of the menu chain of being. It represents a renegotiation of the boundary of ourselves with the extant, and it re-emphasizes the possibilities of that which is allegedly beyond rationality and linguistic articulation, since those are no longer paramount. It also intriguingly echoes this very famous 9th century poem by Habakkuk, who's thought of generally as a Zen writer. The foolish eschew phenomena and embrace thought. The wise eschew thought and embrace phenomena. It sets that difference between the silliness of thinking and the sensibleness of that which is external to our imagination. So how does this displacing of thought and consciousness impact on creativity? I've just shown you my piece called Essentiality of Trees. It was a piece about me travelling away from myself, away from the enculturated me by taking journeys around the world, coming back using soprano saxophone and a mouth-blowing reed organ to recreate something with the sense of being elsewhere. So we've seen that. Beauty is this vague and loosely used word, evanescent and mercurial. Kant, I think, convincingly argues beauty can describe an experience which is outside enculturation. The experience is ignored and overlooked because it can't be understood in terms of or by recourse to enculturation, since it challenges the consistent and inwardly harmonious, yet fragile and vulnerable edifice of cultural worldview. In his critique of judgment, Kant argues that a universal claim for truth can be made when an object demonstrably exists, like this table. We know what it is. We have an idea for it, and our perception chimes with the idea that we have. Aesthetic experience can't be thus described because the perception can't be understood by recourse to a previously known object. The aesthetic object is strange to us. Kant notes that on occasions, despite being comprehension, a claim for universality regarding our judgment of the object experience as beautiful is made. Now, the reason this is important is because I think it gives credence to the notion of the no thing. And I think people were talking about, this sort of vague woolly thing. I'm interested in actually kind of trying to logically demonstrate that exists, that no thing exists. So, why is this claim made, this claim for universality? So I'm hoping you're reading the Kant bits that I'm going to read to you. Kant argues that the claim for universality in an assessment of beauty made in response to an aesthetic experience or object occurs when imagination and understanding relate in indefinite yet harmonious activity. So we don't recognise the object, but something harmonious happens within ourselves, within our processes. The experience of this sensation of harmony is so powerful, says Kant, that we claim universality for our assessment of beauty. Not just, I think it's beautiful, it is beautiful. Kant's arguing that although the representation is strange, it brings our cognitive faculties into proportion to cause. In other words, though the representation is strange, i.e. we have no enculturated explanation or account for it, we nonetheless experience a sense of perception, imagination. In a way, that's a mysterious kind of recognition of the art object. Our cognitive faculties experience a chord. We don't know what it is, but we experience the aesthetic tingle. We recognize something new. For Kant, this experience of a chord is the source of the claim for universality. There is nothing more, as the quote says, beauty for itself, apart from any reference to the feeling of the subject is. So this is my representation of the no thing, the no place, the thing which is not nameable. Given more recent notions of the primacy of enculturation, Foucault, the ideas of difference, Derrida, etc., there shouldn't be a gold standard for aesthetic experience and no universal claim to beauty. All such claims should be nonsense. From the perspective of enculturation, these claims constitute nothing more than an attempt to validate subjective experience by a plea to our peers. We seek to survive the momentary experience of what Kant calls free play, which we could also call confusion and terror, in which the individual is outside of its enculturated understanding. From the perspective of a deal of mid and late 20th century philosophy, the claim to universality is the desperate cry of the lost and confused. I want to stick with Kant's account for this apparently outrageous claim, but to account for the phenomena in other ways than he does. If we reject his notion that the claim is no more than the acknowledgement of a common mind state experience, a number of possibilities present themselves. We've noted that the pleasure felt by, this is from Kant, the pleasure felt by us is exacted from everyone else as necessary. The person proposing beauty is not expressing an opinion, culturally shaped and mutable, but a conviction. They accept no denial. That vehemence, I think, requires an explanation. I want to argue that the experience of beauty is a real experience, but one which can't be recognised by reference to concepts of the Kantian idea. A claim for universality which is not based on cognitive accord can only make sense if the perception of the object of experience constitutes a recognition of something that is real, but which can't be classified according to our enculturation. Something which transcends our understanding and reason, something which we recognise but can't name. That recognition goes beyond culturally determined signifiers because it is beyond culture and beyond the exclusively human. We claim universality because we experience something which echoes or points to a reality often hidden by our enculturation. There's a very strong parallel in Zen, which is called mu, M-U, is the transliteration, or the no thing. We claim universality because we know our experience is real and important, but as Kant points out, can't be explained by recourse to understanding, reason, or argument, or to any concept since it's transrational. Another lovely poem here. Zen calls the thing at the centre from which all things emerge the mu, the no thing. Any attempt to describe it must be partially inaccurate and flawed. More significantly, since we always seek to place experience into our enculturated understanding, any flawed and partial description carries the awful danger of adoption by those who read it. If the inverted comma dot 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 inverted comma can't be named or described, is it also then beyond music and, for example, painting? I think human music, as opposed to sound and noise, require imagination, and as we see here, imagination is posited by this writer as the source of illusion. So since music requires imagination, and is the source of delusion, it must melt away with enlightenment. I don't believe music or any human expression can describe or embody the inverted comma dot 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 adequately. It's easy to get lost within human imaginations, within culture, but it's possible, according to the quotation from the screen, with one thought to return to the source. It must also be possible then for imagination to contribute to signposts within a cultural milieu, which, flawed and partial though they are, may say something like, this way to the source, or more humbly, this might be a way to the source. They will of necessity be formed in part from and shaped by cultural imaginings of the host culture, but can sit within it, pointing the way, nonetheless. It seems then that attempting expression of one's experience of the source, the mood, the no-think, as you were talking about earlier, that place which is extra-cultural, yet never more than a step away, and which can't be described with anything that we have to describe it with, along with the experience of always looking to encounter it through the vehicle of oneself, enculturated certainly, but looking to exceed that enculturation, constitutes Wabi work as described there, work which can be beautiful in Kant's terms. In musical terms, this attempt is implied in a great deal of writing by musicians. John Corbett says this of free improvisation. It exactly describes the liminal, a reaching for that which is beyond representation, the magical, which we always fail to embody, but the flawed and fractured attempts to hold which Alchemy intends to compose will be perhaps the greatest and most beautiful moments of our living. If I speak for myself, then I would say that that is absolutely true. Those moments of reaching, and when you feel like, oh my God, I'm so close right now, you know, right scratching into it, but it's beyond this, are the most beautiful moments of life, for sure. So I'll let Jonathan Hardy have the final word. This really is the end. Each new word must grope out into some dark region. It must be full of contradiction, of uncertainties, mysteries, doubts, without any irritable reaching after fact and reason, as the poet John Keats said. It must live in ambiguity. Debussy put it quite plainly: music must come from the shadows. And Mahler commented, the creation and the genesis of a work is mystical from beginning to end, since one, himself unconscious, must create something as though through outside inspiration. And afterwards, one scarcely understands